What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Pure EVil MMA. I am so happy for this new episode now that we are over the 200 mark. We actually have had some pretty interesting guests coming back on Pure EVil MMA. Now, our next guest, I have to say I'm so excited for, and I've been waiting to get him on for a very long time now. Matter of fact, me and him have talked at shows before, and this is going back maybe 4 or 5 years now, where he actually came up to me and told me that I was doing a great job. So without any further time wasted here, I'd like to welcome the legendary Bryan Miner. What's going on, Bryan? How you doing?
Good, Eddie. What's going on, man?
It's going good, man. And like I was just saying, for those people out there that aren't familiar with who you are, maybe they never watched an MMA fight in their entire life. Well, you actually not only are a referee in MMA, Muay Thai, Comabt Sports, but you're also into judging. We have a lot to talk about. Now, before we even start anything with this, man, you've been doing this for almost a decade now, right? You've been about 10 years, and you started when you were 8 years old in the mixed martial arts scene. Is that correct?
I started, it was more karate and kickboxing back then, but yeah.
Yeah, you know what's crazy? Like back then, like, how old are you right now? Like,
I'll be 43 in April.
Okay, so yeah, when you were young, there was no mixed martial arts. Like you said, there was karate schools or Muay Thai or kickboxing school. Nowadays, it's all in one place. So, let's start from the very, very beginning. You're 8 years old. What got you interested in, mixed martial arts?
Well, back then it was just karate, so I just wanted to be able to protect myself, and I was living in a rough area. My parents wanted to make sure I was able to defend myself and teach me a little bit of discipline also. I was kind of an unruly kid.
Well, this is Connecticut, right?
Yeah, in Connecticut. Yep.
Isn't it crazy how misunderstood Connecticut is? Like, a lot of people out there think Connecticut's like this rich state with a bunch of snobby people, and yeah, like every other state, there are areas where there's people like that. But there's a lot of, like I'm from New Haven. This is the third most dangerous city per capita in America, and people don't realize that. And one thing that I think is really evolved in the last decade or 20 years is, seeing a lot of these schools combine into one. So when did you start, getting into karate? Like, what was it that made you, other than trying to protect yourself, was there a show, was there movies or anything that was like, all right, this is kind of badass?
Definitely there was movies. I mean, a lot of movies kind of influenced my life. And then, knowing that there was a karate school close to me within Norwich, and my parents saying, okay, you can go. And, that was pretty cool. So I started 8 years old with Master Peter Rogers.
And what was, you say karate, but what is it, a Koba Ryu? Is that how you say it?
Yeah, Koba Ryu. It's a combination of styles, of Korean, Okinawan, Burmese, American styles. So it was a little bit of everything.
So let's move forward in the timeline. You get to about 15, 16 years old. Where's your direction heading right now? You're in high school, I'm guessing.
Yep.
You've been in the mixed martial or the karate school for a few years now. Where did you see your life heading at that point?
Well, back then, kickboxing was really big. So I started kickboxing, doing training, and then doing, back then it was gym against gym. They call them smokers nowadays, but we would do little exhibition fights and stuff. And so that's kind of where I thought I was going to be, get on the national karate team or something, and then make it as a big kickboxer, but that never panned out.
So actually, as the couple years went on there, when did reffing come into play? When did this opportunity represent itself to you? How did you follow down that path?
In about 2006, there was a lot of shows happening in New England, but there were some complaints because the shows that were being done were overseen by the promoter or, close friends of the promoter. So you'd have referees and judges. They were either from that school, and then you'd have people fighting from that school. So what happened is they allowed third-party sanctioning bodies to come in basically, if you were the promoter, you would hire a third-party sanctioning body to come up and oversee your fight. So they would hire, the third-party sanctioning body would hire the referees and judges and timekeepers and the inspectors. So I started working for one of them called the USKBA out of New Jersey.
Now, is this before they had any like athletic commissions?
Well, yeah, only a few places actually had commissions at that time, but it's before any commission started overseeing mixed martial arts.
So when did they start really putting their foot down? And because a lot of people out there, like, they don't understand the UFC, Bellator, these promotions, they don't pick the refs. They don't pick the judging. It's actually the state athletic commission. So
exactly.
When did they start putting their foot down and developing their program?
Well, it depends on where you're talking about. So different states had commissions already overseeing, MMA for a little while. I think, Alabama, I believe, New Jersey, Mohegan, they all started overseeing MMA at a much earlier stage than some of the other commissions. But most of the New England commissions came online and started overseeing MMA in like 2010.
So a lot of people out there that have been following mixed martial arts for a long time, they're very familiar with who, a lot of the bigger name referees like Big John McCarthy, who was doing it since, the early UFC years. Now, I got to ask you this question. What do you think has been the most improved part about reffing in mixed martial arts?
Oh, boy. The most improved part about reffing, I just think that, you're starting to see a lot more shows of it. A lot more shows out there. And it gives the refs a lot more chances to see different things that's happened in the ring. That's what makes a great ref from a kind of mediocre ref, is your experience.
Yeah, no matter what school you go to, like I went to EMT school, they make you go to the hospital or ride along with the ambulance. Broadcasting school, they want you to go to, News Channel 8 and get that time in there. But do you guys also do classes and stuff? I know that John has and Herb, they do classes or like a workshop.
Yeah.
Do you guys do that for, the other organizations or guys that are coming up trying to learn? And do you do that yourself? Like after an event, do you go back and watch, some of your calls and see how you can improve yourself?
Oh, always. I always go back and look at what I've done. But yeah, as far as courses and stuff, there's the ABC training course that you have to take just to be considered to be hired by the commission. So our local guy here in New England is Kevin McDonald.
Yeah.
He's a great ref himself. He's probably I would say he's one of the best refs out there. So actually, he's the guy I went through to get all my training done, to get my courses done. And with those certificates is what you use to get hired by the commission. So
this is like any other school. Like I said, it's kind of like an EMT school. Like, all right, say for instance, we have listeners tuning in right now. They might be 15, 16, even 25 years old, and they want to get into it. Do they need to have a mixed martial arts background? And if they don't, should they?
Well, it doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
They should have some kind of combative sport background. They got to know what it's like to be in there. They also need to know submissions. That's part of the course that you take. Part of the course is not only written, you're also watching, particular fights, but you also have to demonstrate moves, like, how to put on a rear naked choke, what's going to happen if you put on a triangle, all these different, most of the common moves that you're going to see.
And that makes a lot of sense because when you're in there and somebody has a submission hold on somebody, you need to know how to disassemble it. You need to know how to get them out of it if they're not letting go. Like you guys
Exactly.
have the fighters' lives in your hands. It's a lot of responsibility.
Exactly.
So right now, like, what's your background? Before we jump back into, how people get into it, what's your background? You started at 8 years old. Are you still currently doing classes? Are you still learning, evolving inside the martial arts scene?
Oh yeah, I'm still training. I go to JITS, 3 days a week. I'm in the dojo, also 3 days a week, teaching karate and participating in kickboxing class. Sometimes I just hit the bags on my own and Oh yeah, I'm still training constantly.
You're actually a trainer yourself, right, at Rogers Academy?
Yeah, I'm one of the teachers. Yes.
And you actually have a lot of students underneath you that have accomplished some amazing things. So, really quick, just throw out a tag of if people are in the area here in Connecticut, where can they go find your classes?
They can come to us over at Rogers Academy of Mixed Martial Arts on off of Route 12 in Gales Ferry. We're at 7 Hurlbut Road, right behind the CVS.
All right, so jumping back into the talk of our listeners or whoever that wants to get into mixed martial arts reffing, is it kind of the same for judging, or how does judging go? Because you do both. Not only are you a ref, but most recently you've broken down a wall into the judging aspect of it. Is it kind of the same thing?
Yeah, actually, I started off as a judge.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, I actually started off as a judge. I was hired by the local commissions as a judge back in 2010, and actually from 2010 to 2013, I did very little reffing. I did more judging than anything.
You know, what's the biggest difference of learning to, because it's pretty much the same. Like a judge has to know what's going on in there, what a fighter's doing if they're on the ground and transitions and stuff like that. So is it kind of similar in that way of, learning, preparing to be a judge, like preparing to be a ref?
Yeah, it's very similar. I mean, the courses differ a little bit because the physical part of it, you're going to still have to be able to know all the submissions. You need to be able to recognize all the submissions. But when you get into the reffing part of it, it's going to be a little bit different because you do a little bit of in-cage type of scenarios. They set up different scenarios for you, and what you're going to do if this particular thing happens or that particular thing happens. So it's but the courses, they're usually taught by the same people. Like Kevin does both courses. So if you want to become a judge, reach out to Kevin McDonald, or a referee, reach out to Kevin McDonald for the ABC licensed courses. Now
you go through the course. How do you get your license? What do you have to do to actually get that certificate? Do they have you go to, a smoker or a smaller event? Because it's pretty risky to throw somebody in there. So how do they get their certificate?
No. You get your certificate that day. You take the course, you get your certificate. But then the commission, you have to put in for a license with the commission. And then it's up to the commission if they want to hire you. Typically, they might ask you to go to the shadow. They might ask you to come to a couple of shows first, shadow, see how you do, before they put you actually in the judge's seat or in the cage.
Now, how do they go about picking who's going to be on a card? Because, somebody like you who's been in the game for so long, we've seen you, judge some of the biggest cards this year. So how do they go about picking who's going to be on the card? Does it really go by like the area that you're in? Because I realize when I'm at Lion Fight, you're always at Lion Fight, or CES, you're always at CES. So does it go by area to area, or how do they go about it?
It's really just up to the commission. None of us really know who is going to get what assignment until you get an email or a call. So it's just, I really don't know how they pick, to be honest with you. It's just, you hope for that call to come through or that email to come through.
Man, you guys go unthanked for so long, and one thing I think is really impressive is how much you guys travel. Can you list off some of the places that you've got to visit, being able to do this job and the payoffs of, traveling? What are some of the places you got to see?
I've been all the way from California to, been in Detroit, and then overseas. I've been lucky enough, very, very, very lucky to be able to go overseas. I've been to Rome, Tel Aviv, Israel, Italy a couple of times, Dublin, Ireland. So I can't complain, man. Things have been really, really good.
Yeah, it sounds so exciting to be a part of, the scene has really blown up in the last 10 years. And right now there's a lot of exciting things going on. So I always celebrate when I see you on TV, or I see even Dan Mergliata, who's another guy from here in Connecticut that, he's so friendly. So really quick, for people out there to get a little educated on what you guys do come fight night, what does the day look like? You show up at a fight event. What is your agenda? What do you have to do?
Well, let me just, Dan's from Jersey, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's a good friend of mine. I love Dan. So Dan Dan does an awesome job, and one thing I love about it is that I can, if I have any questions, I can call any of the top referees or judges around that are the busiest, which is awesome. Typical fight night, we normally get to the venue. We'll get our assignments from the commission. We don't get them ahead of time, so we don't know who we have. If you're judging, you also get your assignments at the same time, so you kind of look at the card. We'll kind of make sure that there's no problems with it. Make sure that, there's no close friends or anything like that.
Yeah. And you guys have to go backstage, right, and talk to the fighters before a fight. That you guys have to go backstage and talk to the fighters before you judge them, right?
With the commission, we run back and we talk to, it depends on where you're at and what show you're doing. Sometimes it's a group interview and some group meeting with them, with all of them, and kind of go over the rules, or you might meet with individuals and kind of go over we don't go over every rule of the unified rules of mixed martial arts. We kind of go over the big stuff and how I or a different referee might dictate how that fight's going to work.
Now, there's a lot of fighters out there that, and you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but, fighters have told me before in the past, like, when the refs go backstage, and even refs have told me this, sometimes a fighter will be like, man, if you see me in a tough situation where I'm getting choked or I'm about to get knocked out, let me ride it out a little bit because, a lot of the times I'll recover. If a fighter says that to you, do you kind of give them the benefit of the doubt, or do they get fair treatment? Because a lot of people like to complain when situations like that happen. So, what do you do to deal with something like that?
Yeah, a lot of fighters will say that, but you want to treat everything the same. You don't want to compromise one fight for another.
Exactly.
So you do want to kind of treat, particular situations the same. I mean, if it's a pro fight, you're going to give them every chance possible to get out of that choke, right? Or every chance possible to get out of that submission. You're gonna let them go. Let them go until they either tap out, go to sleep, or something breaks. That's a pro fight. But an amateur fight, you're not going to give it as much time as you would a pro, right? Amateur fights, I would rather stop that fight early than see something get broken.
Now,
right? That is the worst thing. I don't want that to happen.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you guys literally have these guys' lives in your hand. It's a big responsibility. Now, usually on a card, we see, on bigger cards, I should say, there's usually like 4 or 5 refs throughout the night. What are you guys doing in between fights?
It all depends. Sometimes it depends on where we are. Sometimes you could be judging. Sometimes if you do both, if you're licensed to do both, sometimes you're the onside referee, so you're there watching the fight, making sure nothing's happening within the cage that the other referee would need help with. You're collecting the cards from the judges in between rounds. Or if we have enough referees, somebody's usually in back talking to their fighters and going over the rules.
Now, really quick, I got to ask you this question. A couple years ago, MMA was finally legalized in New York. What did that mean to you?
Oh, I thought it was great. I mean, for me, it's just another opportunity. Put my licenses in New York and other commissions and see what happens,
And you actually got to, I think you judged this card, UFC 230, man. What was it like to just sit there in front of a New York crowd? Did you kind of take it all in? What did that moment mean to you as a ref to see the sport evolve after all these years, since you were 8 years old, to be a part of it and sit there? What did that moment feel like?
Every moment feels awesome. Just to know where I started from and knowing that this was, part of my dream was to, be able to referee next to John McCarthy or be able to talk to him, on a professional basis like this, or, the top refs, the top judges, just to be able to be next to them or be cage side. Every fight that I go to, every show that I do, I always have the same feeling like this is awesome. I have the best seat in the house. It doesn't get any better than that. For a sport that I love.
And before we end this interview, man, I really got to say, when I first started in podcasting, I think I was going through broadcasting school at the time, I went to my very first Lion Fight card, and I saw you there, and you actually came up to me and told me that, you're a big supporter of Pure EVil MMA podcast, and I got to tell you how much that meant to me to hear that from you, and how friendly you were, and how friendly Dan was. It's so nice to see, guys like you that. When I first started, I used to see you on TV, and when you came up to me, man, I gotta say that meant a lot to me, and it was such a reassurance that I was doing the right thing. So I really want to thank you for that. It meant more than you know.
Oh man, I want to thank you for keep doing a good job and do your interviews. I listen to your podcast all the time, so just keep doing your thing.
Bryan, really quick before I let you go. Last question for anyone that's listening that might be interested in starting reffing or judging. What do they have to do to apply? Where can they go to start this process?
Well, first of all, hit up your local trainer, ABC certified trainer in this area. That would be Kevin McDonald. Look up his website, see if he has any classes available. In the meantime, if there's no classes available, go to shows. That would be the best thing. Go to shows, go to gyms, watch everybody, train yourself. That also helps. But yeah, first you have to get the courses done. Then after that, you would put in for your local commission, depending on whatever state you're in. That would be the commission that you put in for. And you put in for your license and wait. You just have to wait and see if you can get hired for a show. Sometimes they might ask you to shadow, which is no big deal. Everyone puts in their own time, It is on your own dime to go shadow a fight, but it's worth it. In the end, it will be worth it.
And really quick, this is actually my last question. It just popped up in my head. Is there an age limit for reffing? Like, is there a cutoff that they make you retire, like 80 years old, or does it not matter? As long as you're physically able to keep up, you're still able to, disable submissions and what have you. Is there an age limit or no?
There's not that I know of, no. I mean, as long as you're physically able to be in there and you're able to, do what you just said, rip apart some submissions, make sure you can get, you got to be able to get two huge monsters away from each other.
Yeah.
You're gonna stick your arm, stick yourself in between them. You need to be physically able to do that. So I think if you're able to do that, then keep on doing it.
Bryan, I want to thank you so much for coming on Pure EVil MMA finally. We've been talking about this every time I see you. We talk about having you on the show for the past 4 or 5 years now, so it really means a lot. And you know what we like to do at this stage in the interview. I hand the imaginary microphone over to you. If you have any shout-outs, sponsors, anything at all, including your social media tags, the floor is now all yours.
Oh, thank you. Well, there's a couple of guys I want to thank. First of all, I want to thank Peter Rogers Sr. for starting me off on this journey. You really did. A couple other guys I want to thank, and I'll thank them in person, but also all the top, judges out there and the referees out there. We are really a community, and we do take every single fight seriously. I know sometimes there's some people might differ on that, on how some of the decisions are made or stuff like that, but we do take our job seriously. And then I want to thank every fighter that gets out there, because, people might always ask me, who do you have a favorite fighter? And I tell them, well, no, I don't. My favorite fighter is anybody that steps in that ring or that cage. Without them, there's no show. Without them, there's no reason for any of us to be around. So I want to thank everybody out there and all the fans of MMA, kickboxing, Muay Thai. Let's support our sports.
Bryan, I want to thank you so much, man. It really does mean a lot that you came on the show. So make sure to go follow Bryan on Twitter at Bryan Miner MMA. All the tags and links are right down below. Bryan, enjoy the rest of your day, man, and I hope to see you at the next Lion fight or Bellator card coming up. God bless.
Thanks, Eddie. You too, man.
And really quick, can you just say, hey guys, it's Bryan Miner, and you're listening to Pure EVil MMA?
Sure. Ready?
Yep.
Hey guys, it's Bryan Miner, and you're listening to Pure EVil MMA.
Thanks, Bryan. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too, man. Thanks.
There you guys go. I love talking to the refs. He's not the first ref that I've had on the show, but he's the closest relationship I have with a ref. Like I said, me and Bryan's relationship go way back. Every time I'm at a show, he'll either walk out of the cage, walk out the ring, come up to me, and we'll chat for a couple minutes. And like I said, man, the first time that he did that, I was starstruck. I was blown away. Here I was in broadcasting school. I just started things up. It was like my 5th or 6th card that I got credentialed for. And here's Bryan Miner walking up to me. I was like, is he coming towards me? He comes up to me, puts his hand around my back, and he came up and just told me that he's a big supporter of Pure EVil MMA. And it was such a reassurance to me that I was doing the right thing. And it felt so special. And if you're somebody that, even a fighter or a ref, whatever, a coach, and you share that little bit of information with somebody that you've been following their work, and you have no idea what that means to somebody that's grinding I wake up every day grinding, excited about what news is going to break, what fight I'm going to cover next, what's going to happen. Because if you guys follow Pure EVil MMA, you guys have realized since last year, I started sharing the experience with you. Yeah, you guys may tune into the fights on TV, but there's so much more that goes on. There's a whole other movie that goes on behind the scenes. And I wanted to capture that, and I wanted to share that with my audience and MMA fans. So I call it a fight companion, a real fight companion, because what I do is I bring my GoPro, which is over there, bring my GoPro with me to an event, UFC, Bellator, a World Series of Fight, PFL I should say, Lion Fight, what have you, CES. And I show you guys what the adventure is like from a media member standpoint. Talking with the media members on press row, the little things that happen in between. Every time I go to a show, man, it's like a family reunion. It feels so good. There's nothing better than that. When I die, these are going to be my favorite memories of life, is those moments. And I'm so happy that I can share those with you. I'm so happy that I can have somebody like Bryan Miner, one of the biggest names in MMA reffing, come here on Pure EVil MMA and share his knowledge with you guys. It means a lot. It really does mean a lot that he took time out of his day to share that with you guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed this interview. Make sure to subscribe on iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher, Spotify. We're also on YouTube. I'm trying to grow the YouTube channel up, and that's where you can actually find the Fight Companions. It's in a playlist. So go to youtube.com/PureEvilMMA. Go to iTunes and just simply search Pure EVil MMA. Go to Google. Search Pure EVil MMA. It's going to pop up. You can follow me on